Let's talk about another case of what's called a Type 7 close encounter, the Zhang incident. A Type 7 encounter means full physical integration with aliens. But before we get into that, here's a quick rundown of how these encounters are classified. Type 1, distant sighting, just seeing aliens from far away. Type 2, some kind of interaction or environmental impact. The Roswell incident is the most famous example. Type 3, a clear sighting of aliens with some kind of communication, sometimes even telepathy. Type 4, physical contact, including abduction, experiments, or body examinations. Type 5, ongoing interaction between aliens and humans. Type 6, actual armed conflict between humans and aliens with casualties. If there's a fight, it's Type 6. If there's cooperation, that's still Type 5. Type 7, physical integration with aliens. Type 8, a full-blown alien invasion where regular people start noticing aliens exist. A Type 9, open, large-scale cooperation between humans and aliens. They live among us, teach us, and coexist as equals. This is the highest level of alien-human integration. Keep in mind, these types don't follow a strict order. Things could stop at Type 8 if aliens invade and wipe us out. Or, if things go well, we could eventually reach Type 9. But so far, Types 8 and 9 remain purely hypothetical. Alright, let's get into the details of what actually happened. Zhang Xiangqin is a farmer from Anhui Province, China. He was born in 1967, which makes him 57 now. His first alien encounter happened when he was just 19. According to Zhang, he was taken straight to an alien planet and lived there for a whole month. After he came back, he wrote a book called Unified Field Theory. Now, if that name rings a bell, it's because it was Einstein's ultimate goal, a theory that could explain all the forces in nature under one unified framework. Basically, it would combine general relativity with quantum mechanics. Einstein worked on it for decades but never cracked it. To this day, it's still one of the biggest mysteries in physics. Right now, there are two main scientific theories that come the closest to achieving what Einstein dreamed of, a unified field theory. First, there's string theory. You've probably heard of it. It suggests that the universe has 11 dimensions, and under those conditions, quantum mechanics and relativity can finally work together. The problem? We've never actually observed these extra dimensions. Not with our eyes, not with any instruments. Second, there's loop quantum gravity, another big contender. Some say it's even more promising than string theory. But here's the twist. If it's true, then time doesn't exist. Yeah, really, past, present, and future would all be the same. Even more bizarre, entropy wouldn't exist either. That means no aging, no decay, no spoiled food. But obviously, that's not what we experience in everyday life. Still, the theory says time and entropy are illusions. We'll actually do a separate video about loop quantum gravity because it's wild and worth diving into. So those are the two leading theories right now. But here's the kicker. Zhang Xiangqin, a farmer from rural China with only a middle school education, came up with his own version of a unified field theory. I'll be honest, I couldn't understand most of it. But when I heard his explanation for why the speed of light is constant, I was blown away. It actually made more sense than anything I've ever heard from a physics class. Most teachers just tell you, the speed of light is constant. Just memorize it. Even Einstein didn't really explain why. But Zhang's explanation clicked, and I'm going to share it with you next. So what exactly did Zhang say about the speed of light? Here's his explanation, and honestly, it might be the clearest I've ever heard. He said that space and time are the same thing. Together, they form what we call space-time. When space stretches, time stretches. When space compresses, time compresses. Whatever happens to one happens to the other, because they're not separate. They're one and the same. Now think about this. The speed of light is defined as distance divided by time. That's basic physics. But if distance is space and time is just another expression of space, then you're basically dividing space by itself. And what do you get? A constant. That's why, according to Zhang, the speed of light never changes. It's not because light is magic. It's because light is space itself. Here's where it gets deeper. Light doesn't move through space. Zhang says space itself is moving, and light is just the way we perceive that movement. Let that sink in. Light isn't zipping through some empty void. That void is already moving, and what we call light is actually that motion. And time. It doesn't actually exist, not as a separate thing. It's just a shadow cast by space's movement. That's why the speed of light seems eternal. It's not about the light. It's about space doing what it does. Zhang compares it to looking in a mirror. No matter how fast you try to move, you'll never be faster than your reflection. Because your reflection is you, just mirrored. Same thing with light and space. We can't step outside of space to see it from another angle. So the speed of light will always seem fixed, no matter what. And here's the wildest part. Zhang believes that all of space, everything we see, is actually one single photon. That's similar to John Wheeler's theory of the one-electron universe, the idea that everything in the cosmos is just one particle moving forward and backward in time. In Zhang's view, it's not one electron but one photon, and space itself is that photon. Crazy? Yeah. But weirdly, it kind of makes sense. Now let's talk about how Zhang says the aliens traveled across space, and trust me, it's not what you see in Star Trek. He said their ships don't move through space at all. Instead of flying from point A to point B, they switch space itself. Let me explain. Einstein once imagined space like a big flat sheet that you could fold, bringing two faraway points close together. That's called space folding, kind of like a wormhole. But Zhang says nope, it's not folding. It's something else. He calls it space conversion. And here's the idea. Instead of bending space to connect two places, you just create a new space at your destination and step into it. There's no distance between your starting point and the new space. Because once you're in the new space, the old one is gone. Imagine this. You're in room A, and instead of walking to room B just appears, and you're already inside it. You didn't move. You didn't travel. You just changed contexts. According to Zhang, that's how the aliens got him from Earth to their planet in just a few minutes. The trip wasn't about speed. It was about switching dimensions, and the time it took was just the system booting up the new space. Wild, right? And the craziest part, Zhang says this ability is tied to the unified field theory, meaning once you fully understand the fabric of reality, space is just flexible. So Zhang arrives on this alien planet, and it's called Kuxing, which literally means guest star in Chinese. What's it like? Picture this. A cold, gray sky with a dim, chilly sun. Massive skyscrapers packed tightly together, stretching as far as the eye can see. The whole place looks metallic, kind of futuristic, but also weirdly sterile. The ground? Hard, clean, no dirt. The plants? Technically green, but so dark they're almost black. Thick, waxy leaves like succulents with attitude. And get this, some of the buildings weren't even real. Zhang said many were virtual, like they looked and felt real, but they weren't physically solid. They could grow bigger when more people entered, or shrink when the room emptied. Think of it as AR on steroids. Real functionality, no physical material. Even his hotel room had furniture, made of pure virtual light. No light bulbs. Just walls glowing softly like warm glass. And the aliens? They were all around 3 feet tall, about 1 meter, with pinkish rubbery skin and a faint blue glow. No bones. Their bodies were made entirely of flexible flesh, but they still felt firm, like they had a meat skeleton. The weirdest part. Each alien had a holographic emoji floating above their head, like a cute cartoon animal. Zhang asked what it was. They said it showed their mood and personality, basically their whole vibe. And here's where things get crazy. The aliens don't age. They don't even grow. Their bodies are manufactured in factories, literally 3D printed to order. When their bodies wear out or get injured, they just download their mind into a new one. Full consciousness, memories, identity, everything. Think of it like ordering a new phone, but it's your body. They've achieved immortality. And no, they don't reproduce. It's illegal. Their population is tightly controlled, and when needed, they make new bodies. That's it. Sex? Only in virtual reality. And there are 3 genders, male, female, and neutral can mate with either in VR. But gender doesn't change over a lifetime. You're assigned one, and that's it. The aliens also had animals, but only in the ocean. On land, everything is engineered and controlled. Food. They don't eat. They have no digestive systems. But if they want food, just for fun, they 3D print it. Zhang said he ate alien lettuce and some kind of meat. It tasted like Earth food. So how do they get energy? From something called the Global Motion Network. This thing is wild. It's like the brain and power grid of the entire planet. It provides clean energy, instant teleportation, logistics, communication, and even protection from wild animals like giant sea serpents. Each alien body has a built-in receiver that absorbs ambient energy from the environment. It's wireless energy, everywhere, like Wi-Fi, but for your soul. The network can even create virtual assistants, holographic vehicles, and NPCs that handle almost everything. That's why they don't need to work. Most of society is fully automated. The only thing left to do is learn and explore. And here's the real kicker. The network is powered by their star. They literally control their sun with a Dyson sphere, adjusting its brightness, preventing natural disasters, and keeping the climate stable at a perfect 17-18 degrees C. In short, they've solved everything we're still struggling with: energy, climate, aging, pollution, all of it. And Zhang, he saw all of this as a guest on a world we can barely imagine. So here's something that totally blew Zhang's mind, and honestly, mine too. The aliens had no countries, no borders, no governments. And here's why. Once they developed the global motion network, countries simply became pointless. Let me break it down. First, the network provided everything: energy, food, transportation, even security. Why do we need governments? Mostly to manage resources and maintain order, right? But if a system already does that perfectly 24/7 without corruption or politics, governments become obsolete. Second, they had something like Bitcoin, but way better. It wasn't controlled by any group or nation. It became the universal currency, so nations lost control over money. And when you lose your monopoly on currency, you lose power. So two things happened. 1. The global network made borders meaningless. 2. Digital currency made governments powerless. Just like that, nations dissolved. No more wars, no more taxes, no more passports. And what replaced all of that? A post-nation civilization where services were free, energy was infinite, and people focused on exploration instead of conflict. Now here's a question you might be asking. If everything is free, what's the point of working or owning anything? That's where their version of wealth comes in. Wealth isn't money. It's access. How often you can upgrade your body, how much you can customize your appearance, how many learning paths or virtual experiences you're allowed. Think of it as a tiered access system, kind of like a video game battle pass. Everyone gets basic services: shelter, education, safety. But premium level stuff? You earn it. How? Through exploration, creation, contribution, not labor, but curiosity and growth. So while they don't work, they're constantly evolving mentally and spiritually. And because they can change bodies and appearances at will, race doesn't matter anymore. In fact, Zhang said people don't even care what body you're using. They care more about your vibe, your emoji floating over your head. Sounds utopian, right? But it's not about being perfect. It's about building a society where the need for power disappears, because the system itself is more efficient than any ruler could ever be. And that's why they explore the universe. Not to conquer, not for resources, but because once you've solved survival, the only thing left is meaning. Zhang wasn't just shown a high-tech alien world, he was also shown how life actually begins. And their explanation? One word: lightning. That's right. Not divine intervention, not panspermia, not alien seeding. Just good old-fashioned cosmic electricity. The aliens told him, life begins when lightning strikes the right mix of gases and liquids, and science backs this up. Remember the Miller-Urey experiment from 1953? Scientists simulated Earth's early atmosphere: methane, ammonia, hydrogen, water vapor, and zapped it with electricity. After a week, amino acids, the building blocks of life, appeared. The aliens just took it one step further. They explained that inorganic molecules usually look like tangled branches, long, open chains. But lightning, with its insane voltage, billions of volts, crushes those chains, bends them, and folds them into closed loops. Those loops are organic molecules, the kind that can lock together into chains. And what are DNA molecules? Chains of closed loops. So yeah, lightning literally builds DNA. That's why they said, any place with lightning can create life. Not just Earth. Venus, Mars, Jupiter, even Saturn, all could be life incubators under the right conditions. Now here's the real mind-blower. The aliens said they were created by lightning too, just like us. They may look different, evolve under different skies, but deep down, they're built on DNA. That's why they study humans, because we're made of the same base code. And then they told Zhang something that hit different. We are the product of evolution. And that got them talking about human pregnancy. You ever notice how a fetus goes through stages? Like it has gills or a tail or looks like a lizard? That's not a coincidence. That's evolution replaying itself inside the womb. Billions of years of biological history. compressed into 9 months. Isn't that wild? A human baby literally reenacts the entire journey of life, from single cell to fish to reptile to mammal. It's nature's version of a flashback montage. But then, they flipped the script. They said evolution doesn't just go forward. It also goes backward. Most species evolve to become more complex. But some go the other way, they simplify. And what's the most advanced form of reverse evolution? Viruses. Yup, viruses aren't primitive. They're ultra-refined, streamlined machines. All code, no fluff. According to the aliens, viruses are the pinnacle of minimal life, the final form of reverse evolution. And here's the kicker. On Earth right now, the two most advanced life forms, humans and viruses, locked in an epic evolutionary tug-of-war. Point one is the master of complexity. The other, the master of simplicity. And honestly, that changes everything about how we think of viruses. Maybe they're not just dangerous, maybe they're brilliant. So, after a month on an alien planet, Zhang came back. How? He doesn't know. He doesn't remember the return trip. Point one day, he just woke up, back in his village in Anhui. And what did he do? He started writing letters. He wrote to local officials, science departments, anyone he could think of, and no one answered. Except for one reply, and it simply said, "This has nothing to do with us." That crushed him. He was only 20 years old, fresh from an experience that could change the world. And no one cared. Years went by. He moved to the city, took odd jobs, tried to move on. But then something happened that changed everything. Point one day, he was reading a magazine article about Einstein's theory of relativity. It said, "The speed of light is constant." He paused. Why? He thought. And suddenly, a voice in his head gave him the answer. And not just an answer, a mind-blowing one. You ready for this? Here's how he explained it. Space and time are the same thing. We call it space-time. When space bends, time bends. When space stretches, time stretches. When space compresses, so does time. Okay, so far so good. Now watch this. Speed is distance divided by time, right? Light speed equals space divided by time. But if space is time, then space divided by time equals 1. In other words, the speed of light is always the same because space and time are the same thing. Light doesn't travel through space. Light is space. And we can never observe it moving faster or slower because we're inside space, we're part of the system. Just like you can't run faster than your own shadow. That's why Zhang said, light feels eternal. Because it is. And here's the craziest part. He didn't read that in a textbook. He didn't hear it from a scientist. It came to him. Fully formed. As if someone whispered it from another dimension. He believes it was part of the unified field theory the aliens gave him. Something even Einstein never figured out. And guess what? It actually lines up with some real theoretical physics. Think of John Wheeler's one-electron universe. The idea that the entire universe is one single electron moving back and forth through time. Zhang's idea is similar. All of space is just one photon, one moment, one self-looping structure. So now that we know what Zhang believes about light, what about space? How did that UFO get from Earth to Kuching in just minutes? Zhang called it space conversion. Not space folding like Einstein imagined. Not wormholes. Not warp drives. Here's how Zhang put it. To travel instantly, you don't bend space. You switch it. You don't need to connect 2 points. You just shift from one space to another. In other words, create a new space wherever you want to be and appear there. The journey takes no time. The delay, he says, comes from opening the portal, not crossing distance. Because in his view, distance doesn't exist. That's why the aliens didn't travel through space. They changed their coordinates within the universal structure of space itself. It sounds wild, but to Zhang, it all made perfect sense. And maybe it does. If space and time are the same, if light isn't a beam but a dimension, then maybe what we call travel is just shifting reference frames. That's what Zhang believed. That's what he tried to explain. And no one believed him. Let's be honest. If someone told you this story, a farmer, born in a rural village in China, with only a middle school education, speaking with a thick local accent, telling you he traveled to another planet and solved Einstein's greatest mystery, you'd probably laugh, too. And that's exactly what happened. When Zhang started posting his ideas online in the early 2000s, people mocked him. He's just some random guy. He's not a physicist. If Einstein couldn't solve this, how could he? Most people didn't even try to understand. They just assumed he was crazy. But some students noticed. They shared his posts. They asked questions. And slowly, over 20 years, more people started listening. Not everyone, but some. And maybe that's how it always starts. Maybe history's most incredible stories don't come from textbooks. Maybe they come from the edges, from the outsiders, from the ones who don't sound like professors, but might be saying something true. So whether you believe Zhang Xiangqian or not, his story raises one big question. What if he's right? What if aliens really did choose a humble farmer from Anhui to deliver a theory that even Einstein couldn't finish? Maybe it sounds crazy. Or maybe, just maybe, genius doesn't always wear a lab coat.